Welcome to another episode of Blurred Out. I'm your host, Terrence, and today we're delving into a topic that's becoming increasingly important to today's digital age, telemental health. As more people seek mental health support, especially in the light of recent global events, and the accessibility and convenience with virtual therapy sessions have become crucial. Join us as we unravel into the intricacies of telemental health and its impact on mental wellness. Before we get started, y'all know what to do. Hit the like button, drop some comments, and subscribe to the Blurred Out movement.
Confidence, yeah. It really shouldn't be no arguments, cause you're now viewing the greatest of all time, saying I can't get better.
Welcome Shantrece Cole, who holds an MBA and a BA in psychology from Northwestern University. And her journey exemplifies the intersection of academic prowess and compassionate advocacy. She's a provisional licensed professional counselor under the board-approved supervisor in Louisiana. She has been counseling via telehealth for 3 years now and is excited to express the benefits of telehealth for professionals and clients in the community. Her dedication to destigmatizing mental health discussions is nothing short of inspiring. Join us as we delve into the importance of mental health advocacy and the transformation power of breaking the silence. Welcome, Shantrece. Glad to have you here. Let's just get started. If you don't mind, can you tell our audience a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I am a PLPC, that's Provisional Licensed Professional Counselor, under the board approved supervisor in Louisiana. I'm from Vivian, Louisiana. I have been counseling for 3 years via telehealth, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. No, we're glad to have you here. So let's just get right into it. Mental health, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
It can be telehealth or telemental health.
Right. So what exactly is telemental health, and how is it different from other therapeutical health practices?
Well, telehealth is a telecommunication and technology delivery for patients. It is different from traditional therapy because it allows clients to be in the comfort of their own home and it's convenient.
Excellent. And would you agree that some of the use of telemental health was accelerated during the COVID time period, right? Can you talk about what that impact was like and how it may have served you in your practice?
Well, since COVID-19, most professionals we use telehealth to make sure the client feel comfortable, safe, and secure. And usually mainly clients was kind of afraid to come out during the COVID-19. So telehealth was very beneficial during that time.
And can you speak to some of the benefits and that members of the who were seeking out therapy during that time, right? They couldn't be in person with people, right? They were doing it digital. Do you get the same benefits out of it when doing it at a distance versus in person?
Yes,
Okay.
the benefits of telehealth is pretty much some clients like to be in the comfort of their own home and don't want to face like people, judging them, seeing them going to a private practice or MHR. And pretty much counselors pretty much use telehealth to just make sure they are comfortable in their own home so they don't have to wake up early going to a 9 a.m. appointment face to face.
Right.
They can just put on appropriate wear and we see each other like this and we talk.
Yeah. No, I get it. So is there anything that's lost by being virtual versus in person from your experience?
Anything that's lost?
Yeah,
Can you deliberate what that
yeah,
means?
is there anything that that you would gain by being in person? Like, I'll give you an example, right? I during the pandemic, I also worked with telehealth or telemental health therapists, right? And I've never met her a day in my life, right, in person, right? So,
Okay.
and I don't know what to think. Like, if I was to see her, I'm just like, oh wow, this is what you look like. Like, but from your expertise and your standpoint, is there anything that a patient or client would lose by not being there in person?
Well, pretty much what you just said. They probably won't see me in person that much, but in my company, we offer in person or telehealth. So if they want to see me in person, we can schedule an appointment in the private practice and we can go from there.
And when doing that, are there any privacy concerns or limitations around, what's gained during those moments?
Yes. Telehealth, most of the challenges of telehealth, most people probably can have lack of services on their cell phone or bad weather, which affects the internet connection, no data, technical difficulties. But however, we try to make sure the client feels secure by providing a password protected link, like what just happened now, like with us,
Yeah.
password protected link, and they only allow the clients to see the telehealth session through that link. No one else can access it.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So there's a link that's provided. It's safe. So the information that's being passed between client and therapist is kept safe. Don't have to worry about it being shared or exposed to some type of breach of information being captured. So no, that's interesting. Uh, because I've always wondered, like, and I think I've done it that way for years now, where it's almost like it'd be foreign to go in person. So I'm excited to see that you've done so much with that. I'm curious though, like, so with all of the privacies and safeguarding the information, is there any abilities to do like AI related information between, is there any how you say, the information that's being passed, if it could be generated through AI to give feedback to clients?
Well, we try our best kind of to avoid AI a little when it comes to like giving feedback to the client. Some agencies do that, but my agency don't do that. So I'm not familiar with AI like pretty much giving feedback to clients.
Right. And for our audience who are considering using telemental health services, like, what are some of how do you go about choosing a provider, and what's the best way to go about that? How do you make sure that you get the right therapist to service your needs?
Well, a client should make sure that they understand and look at the client's expertise, their specialities, their personal theory, which can be cognitive behavior therapy, person centered, RABT, reality.
Yeah.
It is important that the client should pretty much know what goals they want to meet and what problems they want to address with the counselor. And it's important for the counselor to match the client's personality. You don't want to get a dull counselor and have an ecstatic client. That wouldn't be a good therapeutic process.
And so when that does happen, like, how do you manage that? Like, you get a client who you guys just aren't hitting it off, right? Do you make a recommendation for someone else, or how's that work?
Well, with my clients, most of the time, if they're ecstatic, I kind of try to match their energy. Even though I'm not that ecstatic person, I try to make them feel comfortable as they can possibly be. So I haven't had that problem, but if I do have that problem, I would pretty much offer them, like, we have other counselors who can help you with your mental health needs. Do you feel comfortable with that? And most of the time they want to stay. So
Right. Okay. Good. And how can those patients, like, once they've selected a provider, how can they make sure that they're getting reliable services to service their needs? Like, is there a certain practice that you go into? Is it family, or is it like discernment, or is it trauma? Like, can you speak to that?
well, I currently work in the mental health rehabilitation. We don't
Hmm.
do family or group therapy. We mainly do individual counseling and psychotherapy. But telehealth can be via pretty much assessments, reevaluations, psychological testing. It can be outpatient group therapy. It can be family therapy. It can be addiction counseling. It can also be the well-known suicide hotline, which is 988. That can be called via phone, and medication management.
Oh wow, that's that's a lot to capture. So that's really impressive. And you have the expertise to, manage any of those services. Is that correct?
Not psychological testing. Yes, family therapy, assessments and reevaluations, individual therapy, not addiction counseling because I don't have expertise in that area. We have to be kind of familiar with what area that we're going to provide to the clients.
Understood. So, how does telehealth play a role in medication prescribing and monitoring the mental health? Like, is that also able to be done virtually?
It can. Well, usually what I do, I can do check-ins via phone to kind of monitor the client's mental health needs. But with psychiatrists, they the one who pretty much prescribe the medication. Most of the time when they do telehealth is when a client is unable to come in person or if they're distant.
Okay, understood. So, so if they're distant, right? Would you then, and there's a need for the maybe the medication isn't working, like how would you know, and what happens once you realize that and they say, doc, or it's not working, like what should I do?
Well, when they pretty much give me that information, I write it on a medication management form and submit it to the main office, and the psychiatrist will have it in person. And usually the psychiatrist will probably encourage the client to try their best to come in person because sometimes medication management can't necessarily always be telehealth, but when they're having problems with their medication, that's when it's kind of important to come in person.
Excellent. So let's pivot over to something else. Like there's a major stigma surrounding our community centered around mental health, right, and therapy practices. And I'm assuming maybe you've had some of those challenges. Like what is being done, and how do we get, our people in the Black community more familiar and make it more friendly and safe that they could do something like telehealth versus being in person?
Well, usually telehealth, it reduces the discomfort of going to face appointments because some people, like I said before, they're afraid to pretty much drive to a private practice. Someone, especially in rural areas, we know everyone.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I know your car. Your car was parked by at the private practice. What's going on? Instead of dealing with that, especially in rural areas, telehealth will be beneficial in that area. It reduces discomfort of face-to-face appointments.
And have you had challenges making people feel comfortable? Maybe it's in their first session and they've never done therapy before. Like, what's that experience like?
It's kind of fun because I try not to be the investigator or detector gadget because usually I'd be like, have you ever experienced counseling session before? And some would say yes, and some would say no. I said, well, it's pretty much person centered. That's my personal theory. It's conversation like friend to friend. And we at the beginning of the session we just get to know each other. We're just building the rapport.
Gotcha. It's interesting that you speak to that, and I appreciate that. I remember what my first session was like, and I remember the first thing was like the lack of trust that I had in the process. Uh, and can I trust you to tell you information about me, and you are going to help me, right? And so, I imagine, and, many of my friends and others that I know, you come in very defensive. You start speaking things like, "You're not going to help me. You're just going to bash me. Tell me something's wrong. How are you going to help?" Like, what do you do with patients like that who just come in and all their walls are up? Like, and I hope that I'm probably speaking to a larger audience. There's no trust there, and I want you to help me, make me feel comfortable talking and opening up. Like, what does that look like for the people in our community?
Well, usually, especially African American males, especially like they're sometimes they be kind of like, I have been to several counselors. I don't have time for this. Like, come on, man, what you gonna help me with? Like, are we gonna go through the same thing? Are you gonna tell me what to do and I'm unable to do it? I try to use patience with all my clients, patience. And I just pretty much go with the flow in the session. I let the client lead. I let them pretty much express how they feel about counseling if they don't like it. Like, I don't like counseling, or it's too much for me and I don't know what you're going to do for me, and I just let them be vocal.
Yeah.
And when they get through, I'd be like, "Okay, all right, that's how you view counseling." So and I don't laugh. I don't laugh. I promise you, I don't laugh. But I'd be like, okay, that's how you view counseling. So I'm like, okay, so tell me a little about yourself. Let's not jump into the counseling yet. Let's like get to know each other. I'll tell you about myself.
Right. That was definitely me. But I mean, you nailed it. And so I myself, and I am every other black man out there, is that I don't believe that I'm coming here for you to help me. Like, you're going to tear me down. But I'm curious, do you have the same challenges when it comes to black women that you speak to, or do they come in just open and ready to go?
Well, I deal with mainly children as well.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. But especially with children and women, they can have their guard up sometimes. Some probably won't come back,
Mm,
and I would have to refer them to someone else. And some like will probably like shut down. Like, I would have to, like, what we call, counselors call, pull teeth,
mm.
and we don't like using that term, but constantly ask questions to help them open up about themselves, like not about their problems. Like, usually the first session, I don't really kind of go into the deep problems, the trauma, anything like that, because I'm like, this is their first session.
Mm.
I don't want to just jump in. I'm going to let them jump in if they want to. So if they don't jump in, I won't jump in either. We're just going to have a conversation.
And what things are in place to protect the confidentiality of those conversations? Because I'm sure someone going in, if they're going in guarded, they're thinking, if I tell you this, I want to make sure you don't tell anybody else. This is just between me and you. What are the practices that therapists have in place to protect that information?
Well, what I usually say is everything that you say in this session is between me and you, is confidential, except thoughts of suicide, pretty much thoughts harm others, which in Louisiana, duty to warn and duty to protect is legal, and we have to do that. And pretty much neglect, abuse, all that type of stuff. That's the only time we are mandate reporters. But other than that, everything is confidential. So usually they'll be like, okay. And some be like, what if I tell you I'm suicidal right now?
Mm,
And I say, let's do a crisis plan. And I won't report, like, I won't just, okay, you're going to the psychiatric hospital.
right.
I don't do that. I don't do that. That's what most clients are scared of. I'm like, oh no, we're gonna see how lethal this suicide ideation is, and we're gonna create a plan and a safety plan. So that's how I do it. So, but when it's lethal and they want to go to the psychiatric hospital, that's when we admit them. But I don't just quickly just say, oh, you're having suicide ideation. You gotta go to the psychiatric hospital. I don't do that. No.
Yeah, no, that's good. I've even seen it, where sometimes where celebrities who have gotten in trouble, they post things on the internet or social media, and people react to trying to read between the lines of what they've just said and say, "Oh no, they're suicidal." So it's good that you're patient in your thinking to understand what is really happening right now. No, that's perfect. I think that there's I know I was going to ask. So about children, what is it like to work with children different from working with adults?
Oh, wow. Children, you have to be very creative and very patient, especially with teenagers. You have to be very patient with teenagers, and with children, you have to make it fun. Sometimes I do art interventions with them. Sometimes I do play-based interventions while they're playing with their toys, and I talk and I say, "Hey, what the toy is doing? What you doing with that toy?" And then they'll express themselves. Sometimes you can do storytelling and
Hmm.
kind of match it to their problematic situation, and they want to help the characters solve it and it's really them. So it's pretty much you have to be very creative, patient, you have to have a good relationship with the parents, and that's how that goes with the children. But with the adults, it's different because it's more talk therapy with adults. But with children, you have to like pull out puppets, you have to pull out art supplies, you have to pull out toys to get their attention, especially young children, very young children.
Very good. And so let's talk about something else I want to dive into. What, when someone goes through the therapy, and they come out of it, what are they walking away with? Is it tools or is it more confidence? I know for me, my experience is I have a bunch of tools. You get to execute with the tools, and then you don't really know how to use it until you're in the situation to use them, right? And so, can you talk
Yeah.
about a little bit like what do people walk away from or walk away with from the therapy that they've been serviced with?
Well, most of the time, clients walk away with coping skills. And I try not to use techniques that much in sessions because sometimes the client don't fully understand like how to use this outside of the
Mm-hmm.
session.
That's right.
So I use kind of like easy coping skills like deep breathing exercises or happy thoughts or pretty much relaxation techniques. Anything that helps you relax. And I use other coping skills as well. But most of the time, clients come out of our office pretty much with coping skills and stuff. And it depending on that client, that's whenever they walk out of the office, if they feel more confident, if they feel like this is not helping me, or if they feel like, okay, I'm gonna practice on these coping skills right now. Most people think coping skills are mainly used for when something bad happened,
Right.
but it's not really the case. You can use it when you're happy.
I love that. And like many adults actually struggle to cope with different things, right? Whether happy or sad. How do you get kids to learn how to cope with situations? Because there's so much going on. They got school, they got their parents, they got their friends. Like, how do you teach kids how to cope and that's a really more mature thing to be able to do at such a young age. Like, can you talk about that?
Yes. What I do with children, with coping skills, especially very, very small children, like 4 to 6, I don't say use deep breathing exercises. I try to make it very, very creative. I would say, okay, visualize a bunch of cookies in front of you. What is your favorite cookie? And they tell me. And
Right.
I would tell them to smell the cookies. And they smell the cookies. And then I say, okay, now blow out the candles. And they'll blow and they'll smell the cookies and blow out the candles. And that's deep breathing exercises for children. Or smell the flowers or blow out the candles. That's deep breathing exercises for teenagers. So I try to make coping skills a little more imaginative, pretty much, for children. So that's how I do it with them.
Excellent. And so now, as the field of telemental health continues to evolve, like what do you see for the advancements and innovations going forward? Like, what can we look forward to that's going to help improve the efficiencies of how these practices are done and bringing more people to
Not I believe, research. Tele
it?
Telehealth will be a wide range of specialities and practices with communication with clients via phone, via video chat or conference, email, internet, remote access, remote devices, not access, and also rem- telehealth apps, which is connected to the counselor's EHR, which is electronic health records,
Mhm.
or the client portal.
And how can policymakers, lawmakers, and healthcare systems help with the disparities of and challenges that may be had in the with telemental health as it relates to the underserved communities?
By raising the awareness through education and in helping improve resources, to address those disparities in addressing the telehealth services. Telehealth can pretty much lower health discrimination in rural areas where mental health and medical where they lack, like they don't have any, like let's say my town don't probably have like just one agency, like one mental health agency, and let's say they don't want to go there. So telehealth from other agencies can be beneficial to our rural area.
So, for those who want to get into using the telemental health services, how do they find a provider? What is the protocol to find a provider? Is it covered by insurance? Can you talk about that? And what are the individuals who are interested in seeking services? How should they go about doing that?
It depends on the agency. Like the agency where I work at, they just allow Medicaid. And with insurance companies, you have to pretty much call your insurance company and see what covers what with the agency. And pretty much some take cash only.
Oh,
Some
wow.
take yeah, some take cash only, some accept insurance, and you can pay a copay as well. So it's different variety of things with each agency. Like agencies pretty much have different pretty much amounts of what covers what.
So does that work for all groups to have access to it? Like, what are some of the, does it work for everybody? Like, is it to access to all, or are there other demographics who may not be able to access that information?
It's for all. It can be used by any demographic information, any race or anything, so it can be used for all. Anyone can access it.
Excellent. Okay. Got it. And so last question. Let me ask you, what advice would you give to an individual who's seeking telemental health and is having some hesitance and is hesitant to go seek out therapy?
Well, one, you don't have to be tech savvy. That let me it's you don't have to be all technical, a technical genius with technology. If I can do it, you can do it. It took practice. By providing telehealth when I first started, I was like, oh wow, how I'm gonna do this. But it took practice. But it's not hard. Um, and also you will always have a provider that will give you directions and their expertise to help you get it started and everything. And plus, once you understand how to do telehealth and everything, you'll be good to go.
Love
I
that.
hope I answered your question.
No, you answered it beautifully. I think that's definitely going to help our audience members, and to encourage them to go seek, do some mental health practices with a therapist, and hopefully it'll be through telemental health. Because it's definitely been a benefit to me, not having to get up, drive to somewhere, but knowing that I can schedule a session no matter where I'm at. I've been all the way in another country and still held my scheduled date to meet with a therapist. So I think it's very beneficial, and glad that we have individuals like yourself who are doing this work. So thank you for all that you do. And to our audience, I want to thank everyone. Thank Shantrece Cole for coming to the Blurred Out Show today. We've learned a lot today, so thank you very much for providing this information for our audience members. And just remember, make sure you guys subscribe to the Blurred Out Podcast Show, and remember to stay healthy. Thank you.
Confidence, yeah. It really shouldn't be no arguments, cause you're now viewing the greatest of all time. Saying